You're watching A News. I'm Leila Masimova, and here's today's top stories. President Donald Trump introduces tough immigration rules in latest crackdown. Devastating wildfire near Los Angeles forces thousands to evacuate. 11 people lost their lives in a devastating rail accident in India. The U.S. President Donald Trump has appointed Sean Curran as a new Secret Service director. The new appointee, part of Trump's security during the July assassination attempt in Butler, has earned praise for his bravery. Trump expressed confidence in Curran's ability to strengthen the Secret Service. He replaces Ronald Rowe, who served as acting director following the resignation of Kimberly Cheatle. A Secret Service veteran since 2001, the new director previously served as Assistant Special Agent in charge of the Presidential Protective Division during Trump's first term. U.S. President Donald Trump issued another set of executive orders to tighten border security and accelerate deportations of immigrants. The new policies also target local officials resisting federal enforcement efforts.
On his third day in office, U.S. President Donald Trump signed executive orders to significantly strengthen the country's immigration policies. A key part of the new orders is suspending the entry of migrants from the southern border, citing an invasion. The Trump administration plans aggressive action to deport migrants, bypassing overloaded immigration courts and quickly removing those who have been in the U.S. for under 2 years without judicial hearings. Trump's team has also fired top officials at the immigration courts, further speeding up the process. However, the enforcement mechanisms and logistics for halting border crossings are not fully clear at this time. White House spokesperson Karoline Leavitt emphasized that ports of entry would remain open for asylum seekers, with President Trump focusing his efforts on shutting down illegal crossings between those points. Trump is also targeting local governments, ordering the Department of Justice to investigate and potentially charge officials in sanctuary cities who refuse to cooperate with federal immigration laws. This crackdown is set to escalate tensions with cities like New York and Chicago, where local policies limit federal immigration enforcement. The administration has also dispatched additional military troops to the border in an effort to bolster enforcement. This broader crackdown on immigration is part of a continued series of executive actions, including the termination of guidelines from the Biden administration that had limited arrests near sensitive locations like schools and churches. These efforts come as the public remains divided. A recent Reuters poll showed that 39% of Americans support measures like mass arrests and reducing asylum claims, while 42% oppose them.
Thousands of migrants from South and Central American countries are stranded at the Mexico-U.S. border after a series of Trump's executive orders on immigration, including suspending an app that allowed migrants to seek asylum at the border.
As Donald Trump was sworn into office on January 20th, thousands of migrants in Mexico were left stranded as their CBP-1 appointments were cancelled. The application was used by migrants to secure legal entry into the U.S. The move, part of a broader crackdown on immigration, has left many fearful for their safety, with reports of violence and extortion against migrants growing. In Ciudad Juarez, a Honduran migrant was attacked just hours after Trump's speech.
Even here, right here in Juarez, criminals caught migrants in a place. I don't remember where, and they extorted them. They took $1,400 from each one in the family. So as we have limited resources, it's an amount. They ask for a lot. So some have been injured, others did not make it, others have disappeared, and others have had the opportunity and the privilege to be able to hand the money.
Meanwhile, in Tijuana, shelter directors and local authorities are under pressure to manage the growing migrant population, though many believe the responsibility for safety lies with the U.S. government, not just local shelters. As the USA reinstates the Remain in Mexico program, migrants are now weighing difficult choices, with many considering returning to their home countries or seeking alternative routes to the US.
My plan A is to wait for a new app or asylum application to come out so I can enter legally. I don't want to enter the US illegally because it is not right. There are legal processes we must follow thoroughly to enter legally. Meanwhile, I'll keep on working in Mexico to sustain myself.
My family is back in Honduras. I've got no one here. I suffer because my family is far away. I go sometimes without eating. I was here because I wanted to cross to the United States, but since the CBP-1 application was cancelled, I have nothing to do here. Now I'm going to work for a couple of weeks to return to Honduras.
Meanwhile, Texan authorities have expanded a buoy barrier along the Rio Grande. The installation of these buoys, which now extend over a kilometer, aims to block crossings, further complicating the situation for those seeking asylum.
UN agencies have reacted with regret to US President Donald Trump's decision to withdraw from the World Health Organization and the Paris Agreement on climate change. WHO spokesman Tarik Jasarevic underscored the agency's crucial role in protecting the health and security of people around the world, stressing that its response to health emergencies and dangerous places where others cannot go.
Including Americans, by addressing the root causes of disease, building stronger health systems, and detecting, preventing, and responding to health emergencies, including disease outbreaks, and often in dangerous places where others cannot go. For over 7 decades, WHO and the United States of America have saved countless lives and protected Americans and all people from health threats. Together, we ended smallpox, and together we have brought polio to the brink of eradication. American institutions have contributed to and benefited from membership in WHO.
And new wildfires that broke out north of Los Angeles on Wednesday rapidly spread to more than 38 square kilometers, fueled by strong winds and dry brush, forcing mandatory evacuation orders for over 30,000 people.
A new wildfire, named the Hughes Fire, ignited near Castaic Lake, approximately 80 kilometers north of Los Angeles on Wednesday. Fueled by strong winds and dry conditions, the fire rapidly expanded to over 38 square kilometers, prompting mandatory evacuation orders for more than 31,000 residents and evacuation warnings for an additional 23,000 people. The fire has led to the temporary closure of parts of Interstate 5, a major north-south highway, due to poor visibility from smoke. Firefighters have managed to suppress enough of the fire to reopen the highway, but conditions remain under close watch. This new blaze has further strained firefighting resources, as crews have been working to contain 2 other significant fires in the Los Angeles area. The Eaton Fire, which began on January 7th, has burned approximately 57 square kilometers east of Los Angeles and is 91% contained. The Palisades Fire, also ignited on January 7th, has consumed about 95 square kilometers on the west side of Los Angeles and is 68% contained. Officials have issued red flag warnings across Southern California due to extreme fire risk from strong, dry winds. Southern California has experienced a significant lack of rainfall for 9 months, contributing to hazardous fire conditions. However, forecasts predict rain from Saturday through Monday, which may provide some relief to firefighting efforts. Despite this, officials caution that the rain could also lead to risks such as mudslides and flooding in areas affected by the fires. Since the onset of the Eaton and Palisades fires on January 7, 2025, the combined impact includes the burning of an area nearly the size of Washington, D.C., the loss of 28 lives, and damage or destruction to nearly 16,000 structures. at the peak of private forecaster AccuWeather Project's damages and economic losses from these wildfires to exceed $250 billion.
A 17-year-old student opened fire at Antioch High School in Nashville, killing a 16-year-old and injuring another before his own life, local officials said. The shooter opened fire in the school cafeteria, tragically killing 16-year-old and injuring a 17-year-old male student, who was later discharged from the hospital. Police are working to determine the motive behind the attack.
We had a male student of 17 years old that rode the bus this morning to Antioch High School. During the course of the morning, this individual made his way to the cafeteria where he then confronted a 16-year-old, that we identified as a female Hispanic student, fired, striking her. She is deceased. There is another male, 17-year-old young man that was wounded with a graze wound.
U.S. President Donald Trump has threatened Russia with additional sanctions and tariffs unless the conflict in Ukraine is resolved. Despite this, Trump emphasized his strong relationship with Russian President Vladimir Putin and his admiration for the Russian people, urging a peaceful resolution to the crisis. Dasha Chernyshova has more from Moscow.
New U.S. President Donald Trump is calling on Russia to end the conflict in Ukraine in what he calls the easy way. He says it is time to make a deal and urged against more lives being lost. Without a deal, President Trump said Washington will resort to high levels of taxes, tariffs, and sanctions on anything being sold by Russia to the United States and various other participating countries. In response to these remarks, Russia's Deputy UN Ambassador Dmitry Polyansky said Moscow will have to see what Donald Trump thinks a deal to end the conflict in Ukraine actually means. He reiterated a position earlier voiced by the Russian president and said that the conflict in Ukraine should be resolved by addressing the root causes of the Ukrainian crisis. Polyansky said President Trump is not responsible for what the U.S. has been doing in Ukraine since 2014, making it the so-called anti-Russia and preparing it to fight with Moscow. But the diplomat said that it is in the U.S. president's power now to stop this policy. Before taking office, Donald Trump had repeatedly said that he could end the conflict in Ukraine in one day if he was elected. Moscow said it was willing to look at concrete peace proposals. Russian President Vladimir Putin also said that Moscow was open for dialogue with the United States on a wide geopolitical and security agenda, as well as the conflict in Ukraine. Russian Deputy Foreign Minister Sergei Ryabkov says that with Trump now in office, Russia-US ties are likely to see a period of uncertainty, although he also said that compared to the hopelessness in every aspect of the previous White House administration, there is a window of opportunity, although a small one. Trump also said on Wednesday that he was not looking to hurt Russia and always had a good relationship with President Putin. He also said that by settling now, he was, quote, going to do Russia, whose economy is failing, and President Putin a very big favor. In Moscow, Putin held an economic meeting saying 2024 was successful for the Russian economy, with key macro indicators in the positive zone. Dasha Chernyshova in Moscow for A News.
The Ukrainian leader will be hoping that President Trump's warning of major new sanctions on Russia will help bring Moscow to the negotiating table. Volodymyr Zelensky has called for pressure to be applied on Russia by Western allies to bring about a swift end to the war. Ross Callan reports from Kyiv.
Well, President Trump issuing this warning to President Putin, a threat for the first time since Donald Trump returned to the White House on the 20th of January, saying that the Russian leader must stop this, quote, ridiculous war and sign a peace deal, and soon, or face the consequences of the imposition of massive sanctions, tariffs and taxes. Now, this is exactly the message that the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky wants to hear. He's been speaking this week at the World Economic Forum in in Davos, and he has said that Ukraine and the United States are aligned. He has also been pushing European countries to spend more on defence. That's something that Donald Trump also wants to see. And Volodymyr Zelensky has communicated Ukraine's plan for victory, Ukraine's peace plan, and he said he's ready to talk to Donald Trump. Now, Donald Trump has heard that message from Ukraine. He now wants to see what Russia have to offer. He has warned President Putin that he must act and sign a peace deal, if not face the economic consequences. Now, there were concerns here in Ukraine, and they are concerns that could still be borne out if there is a change in the language between Moscow and Washington, that Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump could sign a peace deal bilaterally, without Ukraine at the negotiating table, without Europe at the negotiating table, and could force Kiev to accept a disadvantageous peace plan. So there are those concerns, but this could be a step in the right direction if Donald Trump's message does have an effect of applying pressure on Vladimir Putin, because people here in Ukraine do not want one more minute of war. There has been so much loss. There has been so much upheaval. Millions of Ukrainians have fled abroad as refugees, that if there is the possibility of a peace plan, a just and fair peace, then that is something that would be welcomed warmly, but also cautiously here in the Ukrainian capital. Ross Cullen for A News in Kiev.
As fighting intensifies near Pokrovsk in eastern Ukraine, civilians are being urgently evacuated from the area. With no electricity, water or heating, residents are being relocated under the constant threat of shelling.
As the war between Russia and Ukraine continues, efforts to evacuate civilians from the Donetsk region, particularly around Pokrovsk, have intensified. On Wednesday, the Ukrainian NGO Angels of Salvation helped relocate residents to safer areas and provided wood to cover the damaged windows of their homes. In Pokrovsk, there is no electricity, water or heating, leaving people in severe conditions. Recently, authorities have urged residents to evacuate as the front line moves closer. Emergency services have been evacuating vulnerable individuals, including the elderly, disabled, and even pets under heavy fire. One evacuee required urgent medical attention and was taken to hospital by law enforcement officers. On the same day, the Ukrainian Defense Forces reported 103 combat engagements along the front lines, 55 of which occurred near Pokrovsk. Russian forces launched missile strikes, air raids and artillery shelling, further endangering civilians. Meanwhile, the Russian Defense Ministry said its forces claimed control of the village of Vovkov, located about 10 kilometers southwest of Pokrovsk. This further escalates the situation in the Donetsk region, with Russian forces tightening their hold on areas near Pokrovsk. As the conflict intensifies, evacuation efforts remain a priority.
Tragedy struck in India's western Maharashtra state as 11 people lost their lives in a devastating railway accident. Railway officials reported that the victims, fearing a fire, got off the train onto nearby tracks after it made an emergency stop, only to be hit by a passing train. The incident, which took place just 400 kilometers from Mumbai, highlights growing safety concerns in India's railway system. Turkey's National Security Council emphasized its determination to prevent the PKK-YPG terror groups from taking advantage of the ongoing situation in Syria, while reaffirming its commitment to eliminating all terror groups in the region.
The National Security Council reiterated its resolve to eradicate all terrorist organizations that threaten regional stability and the well-being of neighboring populations. Turkey reaffirmed its full support for Syria's new administration, stressing the importance of maintaining the state's sovereignty, territorial integrity and political unity. The Council also called for the protection of the fundamental rights and freedoms of all ethnic, religious and sectarian groups in Syria. The Council urged that the ceasefire in Gaza be made permanent as a pathway to resolving the Palestinian issue. It also emphasized the importance of ensuring the delivery of humanitarian aid to Gaza in an uninterrupted and timely manner. Turkey also reiterated its dedication to promoting global peace and stability by focusing on conflict resolution in Africa, the Middle East and the Balkans.
With a ceasefire in place, Rafah is working to clear rubble and rebuild, facing significant challenges due to limited resources and destroyed machinery. A new UN report indicates the war has reversed nearly 69 years of development in Gaza.
Rafah in southern Gaza is focusing on clearing rubble and rebuilding after a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas took effect on Sunday. Local authorities in Rafah are prioritizing the restoration of key roads, which have been blocked by debris, to allow residents to return from refugee camps.
Currently, the biggest challenge is to reopen the city's main thoroughfares. We are trying to create a road wide enough for 1 or 2 vehicles to pass. But this is just moving the debris to the side of the road, not fully clearing it. The amount of rubbles is just too overwhelming, and without heavy machinery, it's impossible for us to do the work.
The damage caused by over a year of conflict has left Rafah with limited resources, as many of its heavy construction machines were destroyed during the war. According to a United Nations report, it will take an estimated 21 years to clear the more than 50 million tons of rubble and debris across Gaza, with the war having undone nearly 69 years of development.
Right now, we can't fully comprehend the extent of damage to this city. If things progress smoothly, we hope to find out in the coming period whether the city's water and sewage networks have been affected by the war. We are working hard to clear the main streets and intersections.
The destruction in Rafah highlights the immense challenges facing Gaza's recovery. With most of the city's construction machinery destroyed and limited resources available, the task of rebuilding is daunting.
Shares of Oracle jumped as much as 11% after US President Donald Trump said the company would be among those making a large investment in artificial intelligence infrastructure.
Donald Trump said Oracle would join OpenAI and SoftBank in a joint venture called Stargate, which plans to invest $500 billion to help the U.S. stay ahead of China and other rivals in the global AI race. 1/5 of that money will be deployed immediately, with the remaining spread over the next 4 years. Construction of the project's first data centers has already started in Texas. AI powerhouse NVIDIA will supply chips for the venture, sending its shares up more than 4% on Wednesday. The group's other tech partners also gained, with Microsoft up roughly 4% and ARM Holdings surging nearly 18% at one point in Wednesday's session. Other gainers included AI server makers Dell and Supermicro Computer, along with nuclear power company Vistra, whose shares have quadrupled in value over the past 12 months as demand for energy to run data centers increases.
A company in Abu Dhabi is using insects to convert food waste into biofuel and alternative protein, providing a step towards a greener future.
In Abu Dhabi, a desert warehouse is buzzing with innovation. Circa Biotech uses flies to tackle food waste and create sustainable fuel. The process starts with the delivery of food waste, which is fed to the insects. In just 10 days, the flies grow to the adult size, consuming the waste entirely.
It's called the black soldier fly. It's a beneficial insect that eats enormous quantity of waste. So in 10 days, they grow 500 times their initial weight. They eat all the food waste that we give them. After, we harvest them and we extract protein and oil.
The black soldier flies do not bite or sting in their adult stage, and their eggs ensure a continuous production cycle. The extracted oil from the flies is processed into biofuel, which can be used in aviation, while the protein supports sustainable farming when used to make animal feed. This method addresses global food waste challenges while providing energy alternatives. Circa Biotech's approach highlights a promising step towards achieving a greener future.
Algeria is covered in a white blanket. The long-awaited snowfall has finally arrived, bringing moments of joy to both locals and tourists.
The famous Shria Mountains in Algeria's city of Blinda are now draped in snow, bringing smiles to the faces of visitors and business owners alike. While people enjoy skiing and playing in the snow, local vendors renting winter equipment and selling hot drinks and food are delighted by the influx of customers.
Without snow, we don't work. And the snow came late this year. But even if it came late, we are working with families and people who come and rent sledges. We welcome everyone to come and visit Korea. The nature and the weather are beautiful.
When it snows, it means that we will have a cold summer with lots of rain. And the second benefit is that people come up to the mountain, so we have work.
The snowfall is especially vital for stall owners in the Shria Mountains, as their livelihood depends heavily on the flow of tourists during the winter season.
The snow came a bit late this year, but thank God it snowed and we're working and earning money. Thank God.
This is the first snow. My children were very excited about it. They waited since last year. We didn't get the chance to come last year because it didn't snow too much, so we missed it. This year we came with the first snow. We chose a weekday so there would be less people and we don't get stuck on the way back.
Every year, hundreds of people from various regions of Algeria head to the Shria Mountains. The reason is simple. Here, visitors can enjoy skiing, taking cable car rides, and admiring the picturesque winter scenery. With its enchanting landscapes and activities, Shria has become a winter hub for winter tourism in the country.
That's all for now, but don't go anywhere. Stay tuned to A News for more exclusive updates. We'll be back soon.